Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Move Crush Count. Today's interview is sponsored by J&L Marketing. J&L is a digital and direct marketing agency that delivers results with strategies that help you outsmart competitors so you don't have to outspend them. One way to outsmart your competitors is not only know what they're advertising, but more importantly, which offers that they have, which ads do they have out there that are performing best, which ads are stealing market share from you, and where are your biggest opportunities online. So if you're interested in getting all this information without having to do the work or paying for it, DM me. First 5 people that DM me after this show, we will run those reports. I have a couple quick questions for you. We'll run that report for you, and it'll save you a lot of time, and you'll be able to apply some things instantly to your online strategy. The title of today's interview is How to Build a Stronger Business Culture and Partnerships. My name is Scott Joseph. I'm your host. Today I'm talking with business culture expert David Long about the frequently asked questions people have when it comes to building strong partnerships and a winning culture. Welcome, David Long.
Hello, Scott. Good to see you as always. Glad to be here.
Oh man, I'm excited to have you on here. You and I, we've never really talked. We've been connected for a long time on social, and then Clubhouse came on, and we started popping on stages together. And I feel like we got to know each other a lot closer with all of that. And I want to talk a little bit about that in a second here because you're all over that and doing some great things there. But I wanted to get you on the show because to me, this is such an important topic and it crosses over so many different business verticals. You're a well-known expert when it comes to this. You've graciously agreed to share your extensive knowledge. You've got a great track record on building winning cultures. I've heard you talk repeatedly about not having vendors or suppliers. And I use suppliers in here every now and then in our description, only so I didn't want people in the description to think of business partner as someone that's invested in the company, but something along those lines. But you do an outstanding job with your partners that help you grow, and so we got a lot of questions out there that we know you can answer. So, but before we begin, let's dive into your background. Can you tell us a little bit about yourselves in terms of your background, your education? How did you become an expert in this area?
So, yeah, I'm happy to do that. I did the math this morning. I'm shocked to figure out that I've been doing this for 37 years. I feel like I'm 37 years old, right? So I started in the detail department. My brother's an independent in Cleveland, Ohio, has been doing this for 50 years probably, or just about that. So I started in detail, and just like a lot of guys, right? Just didn't want to be detailing. Nothing wrong with detailing, but it was a lot of hard work, and I didn't want to work that hard.
Yeah.
So I sat in just about every seat in the dealership, and here I am, 37 years later, feeling pretty good. My education, I have some college, NADA, NCM, and then all the other courses that you can possibly imagine. I've been a student of this industry, but specifically, I've been a student of people, because I love people.
I started in the back as a lot tech myself. I was detailing cars. My brother did it as well. I know he's watching right now. But hold on. Sandy Cerami asked you to speak more slowly, Scott, so I can catch up. So for those of you that are tuning in on the podcast version of this, we are streaming this live over LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So if you have an opportunity and you're watching this live and you want to ask myself or David questions, feel free to do so in the comment section. Some will appear, some will not. If they don't appear, we'll get back to them after the show in terms of answers, but we try to get everybody's questions asked and answered live if it's possible. Let me ask you a question. Let's jump really right into this. What roadblocks? Not everybody just comes out of the gate and then all of a sudden, wow, my first opportunity to lead a team and lead people or an organization builds this great culture. Maybe you did. I don't know. And if what early roadblocks did you face and how'd you overcome them?
Well, the biggest roadblock was me. And why I say that is I just, I had coaches growing up in sports that threw chairs at you and screamed and yelled and spit on you and hit you and pushed you. I'm like, that must be how you lead, right?
That yes.
The things that I learned early on are borderline unlawful now. And I was just so intense. Like I was like a Wolverine all day long. And I identified through a lot of self-discovery, I was just terrified to fail. So that fear had me pushing the wrong buttons and pulling the wrong levers. And there's a lot of collateral damage, I have to tell you, Scott, for probably my first 20, 25 years. And the leaders that I surrounded myself with were all pretty much the same Bobby Bowden, Bobby Knight kind of coaches, right? And that's how I led. I thought that's the way you're supposed to do it. And I didn't know that you could have massive success without having that sort of fierce competitive edge.
That's, I don't think you're alone there. I think I can tell you from personal experience, the way I led early on, you can't do it today. No, everybody just leaves you. So and you do it with good intentions. Your intention is because I think a lot of times as leaders, sometimes we see more potential or opportunity, or I guess potential is the right word, potential in someone than sometimes they see in themselves. And I was listening to a podcast earlier today with Tony Robbins, and I thought was interesting is when we're in a funk or when we're disappointed, it's usually due to our own expectations. And sometimes we have an expectation that is much higher than maybe the person that we're trying to lead. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes great sense. But for me, it was all self-serving. It was all because I wanted to be the best. And I didn't want anybody's lack of discipline, their work ethic, to slow me down. And there was,
Wow.
I didn't have a lot of that. I didn't have the compassion gene. It was either get on board or get on out, right? There was not a lot of in between, and there wasn't a lot of coaching to help people come along. It was either get in or get out. And that was my philosophy.
That's such good self-reflection and to be able to identify that. Where was your first breakthrough in terms of kind of recognizing this and then making a switch?
Embarrassingly, it was probably not until my 50s, right? So really in the last decade is I realized, and believe it or not, I got it through youth sports. I'm a coach. I coach youth sports, and I started to identify that the more kind I was, the more loving, the more compassionate, the more supportive, the better my players played. And I thought, maybe I'm onto something. Let me try that at work. And then I surrounded myself with some really kind, inspirational leaders. And then I did a lot of studying in this area. And I found that I could have high levels of success without collateral damage, without having people break out in hives, without having people try to get away from me because I was so maniacal in my pursuit of perfection, right? So that's where I got the breakthrough. It was recent. Like my biggest regret in life, and I don't have a lot, is that I wish I could have been a little more compassionate and a little less self-centered in my 30s and 40s.
Mm-hmm. I mean, think about where a lot, man, you're just striking a chord with me. And so I think about such, I don't want to say wasted years. I could say decades too. I'm in my 50s now. And I have to tell you, you get so pulled in so many different directions because like you said, you want to be perfect in a lot of things. And so sometimes as leaders, we tend to recognize what's not working well because we want to improve it instead of being grateful for all the things working well, right?
So amazing. I had a coach probably 5 years ago, and he forced me to do the ratio of 5 to 1. And I was probably a 1 to 10, right? 1 good, 10 bad for every 1 good. And this 5 to 1, 5 good to every 1 sort of constructive and coaching, really transformed my leadership style. And by the way, it helped people want to be around me too. When I walked down the hallway, people weren't trying to go the other way because they knew they would get some positive feedback.
So we have an early question here. First off, I put up a comment from my brother who I have to tell you, he's probably ended up being the best salesperson in our family between myself, my dad, and him. He had the I guess, more structured coaching and training along with the natural stuff to make it happen. I'm more of the coaching and the training. My dad was just all natural ability. And then but he basically said fear is what motivated him. Is because he didn't want to look dumb. He didn't want to fail. And so that's what drove him. But Sandy Cerami's got a question. He goes, I've listened to you on Clubhouse many times. I love how you were able to effectively blend business objectives with keeping it human. In a world becoming so influenced by data, technology, and driven by bottom lines, how do you see the human aspect remaining a focal point in a digitally dominated world? Why will it remain important as we move forward? That's a good question.
Great question. What a bright mind Sandy is. Let me read that sentence. How do you see human aspect remaining a focal point in a digitally dominated world? I love that part of the question. I want to just first address your brother's question or comment or question about the fear. And I always been plagued with this insecurity that I wasn't smart enough and I wasn't good enough. I was a bad student. I had a learning disability, I didn't know that at the time, right? It was just, you were the dumb kid that sat in the dummy class and the slow learner and that kind of thing. So I brought that with me, and that's really what motivated me to not want to look dumb. So I outworked, outtrained, outlearned everybody around me in my space, so that fear turned out to be a really great motivator. It wasn't all bad, by the way. It was actually a really good thing to be plagued with. Now, moving on to Sandy's, the human aspect remaining focused, the digital dominant. I think the human aspect takes on a lot of different forms today, and here's why. So I have multiple rooftops. There's hundreds of people. It's virtually impossible for me to be face-to-face, belly-to-belly with everybody every day. But it's not virtually impossible for me to connect with people emotionally through video, through text, through phone call, through written word, there's so many different ways in this fast-paced world that I can stay present and current with everybody. But I think that's my fiduciary responsibility as a leader. Because in the absence of me communicating, what happens?
Well, I mean,
fear for others creeps in. So I firmly believe in that void of me not communicating and staying on message. People manufacture their own narrative, and generally their own narrative is not positive. It's generally negative. So it's important to me that I boom, 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 keep beating the drum and stay on message constantly.
I had a question later that I think applies now based on what you just said, and that is, to build a winning culture, how much time does it actually take daily and weekly to stay on top of it so it's constantly moving in the direction and improving, in the direction you want and improving?
It takes all day. So I have this has been my mantra since even when I was a fear-driven leader. It's my focus as a leader is to think about how I can impact my team and leave them better than I found them. So today, the difference is I'm going to stay focused all day long. And it's those subtle cues, right? It's not the greeting in the opening email. So if I get an email from somebody that doesn't say good morning or good afternoon, I know they're probably coming from a heavy place. So that's my indication that I need to reach out to them and say, hey, just want to let you know you're doing an excellent job and I appreciate you. Or they don't sign it with, I hope you have a great day. That's my indication to know that there's something off with that person. I need to do this. And I do this a lot. Hey, Sandy, it's really, really good. I just want you to know the job you did yesterday was remarkable. I saw how you impacted that customer that you were with, and I can't thank you enough for being such a great representation for my company, right? And I shoot that out. But I think it's today more than ever about paying attention to what most people ignore. And what does that take, to answer your question? That takes a constant focus throughout the entire day. It can't be at the end of the day. It can't be when I feel like it. It has to be constant. Does that answer your question?
It does. And some people might be listening and think, wow, I don't have time. I've got to do this. But the reality is it saves you time in so many other areas. It saves you time in retraining people because you're going to retain a much higher percentage of your teammates, right? Your employees. You're going to retain all that knowledge they have. You're going to retain whether it's some of the partnerships, and we'll get into that in a little bit as well. The time it allows you to work on your business, because that's really what you're saying. You're spending all your time working on it, or you're trying to, instead of in it.
That's my job. My job is to work on. And how do I work on? I pour in. So I have this philosophy. Can I tell you real quick?
Yeah.
That everybody has an emotional pool. And some people on the bottom of their pool have a anvil-sized hole, and some people have a pinhole, meaning the emotions. Some people need to be filled up every day. Like, they're so insecure, they're not sure, they're not confident, they don't know if they fit in, they don't know if they belong. 1 minute they feel like they belong, the next minute they feel like they're out of place. So my job is to identify everybody on the team and what their emotional pool status is, and then to fill that as often as I can with what they need, not with what I need. Does that resonate? Does that make a little sense?
Yeah. Can you tell us or describe an example of a situation, maybe without naming names, maybe somewhat of a recent one, or one that comes to memory, comes to your mind quickly?
Sure. So I have a leader that does a remarkable job, but he's plagued with the same level of insecurity I had early on in my leadership career. I know in order for me to maximize his talent and ability, I have to continue to fill him up. Now, some people think, well, I don't have time for that, to your point. If you don't have time for that, I don't think you're in the right seat, right? Because in the seat that I sit in, or in a leadership role, I think that is what has to take place first. Everything else has to fit in.
Yeah. I think we just answered I think we answered Sandy's next question. What do you do daily to stay on the plus side consistently every day? So I think that answers that. Ramon Bassett has a comment. I had a similar start in sales with a fear-driven motivation, and some of those elements crept in the way I led until one of my mentors told me to manage numbers and lead people. That revolutionized the way I led. That's a good way to think about it. Sometimes all we do is manage numbers, which you're not leading, you're managing, right?
I think that's a great point. I totally agree. And by the way, I think if you polled 100 people, 95 of them would say they're full of, if they're being honest, they either started with fear, they're in fear now, or they're fearful every minute.
Yeah.
Right. So I know they're going in. If the odds are the people are from how do I take them out of that place of being fearful? Because I don't think we can perform at our best when we're full of fear.
Yeah. And you know what? And the other thing, when you're talking about measuring these pools and helping people, I think it's important for everybody, even as leaders, you got to be intentional about filling your brain with the right stuff. You got to be intentional about who you surround yourself with, right? You got to be intentional about the conversations you're having, the conversations you have with yourself, the stuff you're trying to learn and read. And that I avoid the news. I pay no attention to it, because you're going to get pounded daily with negative things. That's coming whether you try or not. Situations, challenges, problems, whatever it might be. If you're not intentional about filling in with the positive and things that can help you grow, you're at the mercy of all the other stuff. Would you agree with that?
I totally agree with that. I think the number was 30,000 or 60,000 thoughts every day. I call them ants. Did you ever hear the acronym for ant?
No, but I like this. I like where this is headed.
Automatic negative thinking. Everybody has ants running around their head, right? There's these ants. It's just automatic negative thinking for most people, not everybody. So what do I do to Urban Meyer's book's called Above the Line? How do I continue to fill myself up with positive thinking and avoid the ants from taking over?
Yeah. That's a great analogy and way to think of that. Let's switch gears a bit now. Let's get into some specific stuff. Let's say you've got a new leader on board, taking over a store. And of course, this wouldn't happen at your stores, but take it over a store that's got a horrible culture. All right. It's a little, we'll use the word toxic. It needs to be, it had bad management, bad leadership. And so it's your all's job. Let's say you purchased a store. There we go. And you got to turn it around. And you start doing the things that you're talking about. Tell us what we should expect in terms of how much time it takes to kind of right that ship, the objections or challenges you might face throughout the process before we start seeing results, the type of results we want?
Yeah, so I love that question because I say to my friend Brian Benstock, or I said to him a few years ago, here's what, you take an A team, I'll take a C team, and this is a big statement, right? Because he's the best retailer I know, and I'm going to kick your ass. And the reason is because you're going to ride your A team to the point of wanting to stab you when they can. I'm going to support and love my C team that they exceed every expectation they have of themselves. So my answer to that question is when and if I took over a really negative culture, I call it kind candor. Have you heard the kind candor comment before?
I've heard there was I don't know what word they used with candor, and I can't remember. I attended a thing, but it had along the lines of very direct candor. But go ahead, explain this.
Between candor and kind candor. I mean, I could be candid all day long and just blow your face off, right? Just continue to be candid and give constructive feedback, like people call it. I think that's crap. So kind candor is about letting no stone go unturned and making sure everything is addressed. And I don't mean address like you did and you said and you're sick and this triangulation thing has to change or you got to go. It's about, hey, have you ever considered doing it this way? And here's what healthy behavior looks like. Here's the behavior I'm seeing. Can you see the difference? Are you able to coordinate those two things and reconcile that? And my feeling is I think everybody deserves for us to see the best in them and continue to point out the things that we think, based on our paradigm, based on where we are, need to be different. Does that make sense? But it has to be compared and contrast. Yeah. Look at Ira. I love that guy.
I love that guy too.
Planes when I see that guy. So I have to compare and contrast because nothing's good or bad till it's compared to something. Here's healthy. Here's unhealthy. Can you reconcile those two things? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So Sandy's in here recommending a great book, Why Students Work for C Students and B Students Work for the Government. I've not read that book, so I can't comment it. I don't know. Have you read that book?
No, but I love Kawasaki. He's awesome.
So let me ask you a question. I'm sitting here. Why do you think? I love what you just said with the candid conversations and kind candor. And you're having those conversations frequently, which also aligns with what you said earlier, which is working on your culture every day. I think there's a couple of misconceptions. I think a lot of people think they can improve culture by putting in a picnic table or a ping pong table you cannot manufacture culture that way. To me, culture comes from what you just said. It starts with communication. Right. And I think the frequency and the consistency is key to it. Why do you think so many business leaders struggle with that? Because if it was that easy and it's just a matter of having those conversations, everybody do it and everybody have a great culture.
It's hard work. It's uncomfortable. Right. I don't know that everybody likes to walk through their day feeling uncomfortable. Having those difficult, kind conversations is really hard work. It just is. There's no other way around it.
Yeah. Ira Davis takes a legend to know a legend. You are a legend, baby. Sandy is a frequent, almost like a co-host on the show. We have him on here all the time.
I love Sandy, by the way. And of all the pictures I've seen in social media lately, the picture of his dad kissing him on the cheek touched me because that's how my dad used to be. My dad and I used to hug and kiss and love on each other, and it was so good to see that, Sandy.
Yeah, he follows up. My brother's coming in with a question. How long is your leash? You hire a new employee. This is a good question because how long is your leash? You hire a new employee, and as soon as you find out, they're negative and seem to be stuck in his or her own ways, right? What approach do you take? It's a good question.
I give up on no one. And so how long is the leash? It's as long as the leash needs to be. And here's the thing. If somebody on a scale of 1 to 10 is a 2 on the negativity chart, like they're so negative. One, We hired them that way. So now what? Right? Like they made it through the interview process. They made it on the team. Now it's our job to take them from a 2 to a 10. And the only way I know how to do that is to continue to be up front and center. So here's what healthy looks like. Here's what we've just witnessed. Can you see why there's a disconnect there? Would you like to do it this way at some point? Oh, you want to continue to do it this way? This might not be the best team for you. And people deselect. People select to leave more than we. I don't know that I've asked anybody to leave here in the last 3 years. I can't remember the last person I said, you just didn't make it. It's because we continue to hold the standard so high. If somebody doesn't meet it, they decide to leave on their own. And I hope that nobody decides that.
So they're determining the leash, and it sounds like you're just – well, that's going to ask my question here is I would assume then by hearing that you're probably having more frequent conversations, more kind, candid conversations with someone like that, right? Are you spending more time with people like that or more time with the people cranking along the way you need it to?
You know, that's a great question. So I have a philosophy that check in, check up, check out should happen every day. Like it doesn't need to be a sit down 30-minute session. A check in, check up, check out can be a brief stick and move, stick and move, stick and move. It doesn't need to be this long drawn out diatribe about you did, I thought, you should. None of that. It's like, here's healthy, here's unhealthy. We need to connect those two. We need to raise your level of performance. We need to raise your attitude. I have this thing called Step Zero. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
Everything we do has to go through the filter of Step Zero. And Step Zero is all about attitude, energy, and approach. If your attitude, your energy, and your approach is off of what we agreed it needed to be, then it's an easy conversation to have, right? Remember, we talked about having a really great energy. We talked about having a great attitude and a great approach to your day with structure, discipline, and consistency. Here's what I'm seeing. Here's what you agreed to. We need to connect them. And how long did that take me, Scott? Took me 30, 60 seconds. Like I'm noticing your energy is off. Is everything okay? No? Well, you need to go take care of that because when you get back on stage, I need your energy to be here, not here. And I think when we have those quick, candid little interruptions in the pattern, right? I call it pattern interrupt. You probably got that from Tony Robbins. It's a quick pattern interrupt, right? It's not this long thing. And that's what most leaders don't realize. They think they have to do this formal write-up. It's a boom, 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 next. Check in, check up, check out. That's right.
Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about partnerships. So first off, I should have said all this in the intro. You have done a heck of a job on building a community, really. You've got the used car room that you do every Friday morning on Clubhouse. You're in and out of multiple stages. You started the pandemic of positivity. You're the founder of that. And let's talk. And before we get into the partnerships, let's talk a little bit about that because I brought partnerships into the conversation from everything I learned from you listening to you in Clubhouse. If someone's on stage or in the audience and they're listening to you give opinions or advice or your thoughts, it's impossible to leave the room and not understand how important good partnerships are with you. And to me, the culture with your employees and your partnerships with the suppliers that you have, it's a very similar philosophy and it's hand in hand, which you can see how this synergy is helping you. It's first off, when you have the right partnerships and the right culture, right? Once again, it allows you to work on all the stuff you really want to work on, not in. And so I love that. So first, let's talk a little bit about the communities you built on Clubhouse and other social media, and where you're going with that and why you do it.
Sure. So the pandemic of positivity started when shortly after the pandemic started, and it was birthed out of a fear that my daughter. We have a daughter that's we have two daughters and a son. The middle daughter, like, she'll kick your butt. She is just a fierce. She's an equestrian. She is very not really touchy-feely girly, right? She's like a tomboy, and she doesn't get very emotional. And one day I was leaving when the pandemic started, and she was emotionally moved. And she said, Dad, I really want you to be careful. And I'm like, be careful. Like, I'm going to work. What are you talking about? And she's like, I'm really afraid of this pandemic. I'm afraid you'll get sick and you'll die. Right. And I thought to myself, well, if I have hundreds of employees that have daughters, sons, wives, husbands, they probably feel pretty similar. So the pandemic of positivity was birthed out of that. How do we bring our families here, send them home safe, and stay positive while we're doing it? And that's where that was birthed. And then it grew into, that sort of foundation. And then the all things used cars happened because although I am a student in the used car arena, Scott, I know the more I know, I don't know, and the more I need to learn. So I aggregated, we get hundreds of people in that room now, and I get to hear all these opinions that oftentimes I don't agree with until I think about it. And then I go back and I'll call them and be like, hey, listen, I didn't agree with that, but tell me more. And it really, iron sharpens iron. These people that join the room with their perspective help me stay on the cutting edge and stay in front of these changes that are happening. So that's where those two things, I hope I answered your question, but that's where they came from.
You did. And when I get in there and I have strong opinions, sometimes I keep them to myself when people are talking because I'm like, I don't know about that. But what it's shown me, because a lot of these people are all very successful, it shows you there's a lot of different ways to get to the end result we all desire. And I think the common denominator is the work ethic and the approach to it and the accountability. I mean, there's a lot of different things that they all have in common in terms of these leaders. They might have a different approach in terms of how they market something or the way they work deal, so to speak. Some are all in on the digital retailing. Some are like, you don't have to look any further than a test drive conversation to know all the different opinions on what has to happen. But I love the community you're built. It's got a great following, and the one thing that screams out about you to me is I see you as a true giver and someone who wants to grow. And to me, that's where you get full fulfillment in your life, right? People that give and grow, or have a desire to give and grow. And those two things jump out.
Thank you.
So are you getting an echo?
I'm not. No, you sound great.
All right. So let me ask you, let's get to the partnerships. When did this start for you, and how has it helped you? And when you describe a good partner, what's that mean for you?
So I would venture to guess that I have the best partners of anybody on the planet. And I would also venture to guess that my partnerships are so strong that not one of them would let me fail. And why I believe so strongly in my partnerships. Now, I will take, and you're going to be like, man, this guy's nuts, which there is some truth to that. I am a little crazy, but I would take a substandard product and support over a stellar product and no support, like 10 times, twice on Sunday. And here's why. The partnership, not agreement, but the partnerships that I have with every single partner, they're friends. They're part of the team. Like, they do things for me that aren't even part of their world. They help me. They support me. They coach me. They counsel me. They work with my teams. Heck, some of them even meet my teams at 6 o'clock in the morning to leverage the relationship to help us get better. I have partners out there mystery shopping me every single day and providing loving, kind feedback to make us better. Like, you don't get that by just having a contractual relationship with someone. And when was the last time, as a vendor partner, you got a video or an email or a gift in the mail from one of your dealers? Do you get that very often?
Every now and then I get a bottle of bourbon.
I figured you would.
Or some
There's not many
cigars.
dealers that I think reach out and send apparel that we know. Like, I'll send my Vin Solutions performance manager workout clothes that I know she likes. My wife will go buy them and we'll send them out to her. And the reason we do this, there is so much that we get back from our partners that I can't even fathom calling them a vendor, because they're not. They're part of the team. They're an extension of the team.
I love that. We do the business bourbon, and I'm hearing an echo on my end. I think it's. Am I coming through your computer speakers?
I wonder if it's coming back.
No, you sound perfect.
You sound perfect. You sound perfect to me. So let's go.
All right. Everything I say comes in my ear twice. So maybe it makes me twice as smart. I don't know.
Maybe you need to hear what you're saying.
Or twice as dumb. Well, we do this event, Business Bourbon and Cigars, and to your point, we no longer call them vendors. We call everybody sponsor partners, because that's what they are. And without them, obviously, the event wouldn't happen. So my brother brought up another question. He goes, what motivates you?
Well, it goes back to leaving everybody better than I found them. So my legacy, so I'm a lot closer to the end than I am the beginning. Like, I'm years away from, calling it and moving full-time into my consulting business, which it's great. Like, I have this great consulting business that I enjoy, that I do almost every morning at 6 a.m. I got client partners from here to Brazil, and I have a lot of fun with that. Like that, my wife says, she'll get up, she'll be like, man, you're so excited. I'm like, yeah, because the lights came on for the people. And then I bring that here to work and I see the lights come on. So what motivates me is thinking about when I'm done, having somebody reach out to me and say, you changed my life. You impacted my life. I wouldn't be here where I am today hadn't it been for the impact you made on me. And every day I think to myself, if I can make that kind of impact, that's generational. That's not just a monthly, I helped you make a couple car deals. That is changing the way somebody lives their life and how they impact their family. And for me, at this stage of my life, like, that's what it's all about.
So Sandy wants to know if you were the guy taking the last shot or setting up the shot for a teammate. And then how has that helped you in business and leadership?
That's the best question, Sandy. If we got 15 seconds left and there's a timeout and we're down by 2, you bet your ass in that huddle, I'm saying, you better give me the ball. Like, you got to get me the ball. I'm coming off of 2 screens. I need to have the ball in my hands. And what that's done and how it's translated into business is I take full responsibility for everything. Like, if somebody doesn't get it, there's an unhappy customer, there's an unhappy employee, it is me. I either didn't give the managers everything they needed to lead that person into a place of feeling completely satisfied, but it's all back to me. I want the ball, 100%.
So I'm getting comments left and right, Hal. And I pause a lot because they're all saying I'm echoing left and right, which has never happened before. So I don't know what's going on. It wasn't happening earlier. But guys, you don't have to keep commenting about the echo. I get it. There's an echo. But I am not a tech guy, so I'm not going to be able to fix it. So we'll have to clean it up on the editing part of this. So
let me ask you a question. Do you echo? Let's try that.
What's that?
When I mute myself, maybe there's not an echo then. So when you're talking,
I didn't hear an echo. All right, mute. All right, I'm not hearing an echo at all. There you go. All right, it's coming back through your speakers. That's what I thought. All right, so now that we've got that solved, we'll just we'll pretend we're on Clubhouse where we just mute and unmute. All right, perfect. Let me ask you a question. Is it everybody's responsibility in a business to pay attention to the culture, or are there certain people that need to do it? And I guess who stands to benefit the most?
I think we're as strong as our weakest link. So I think it's everybody's responsibility. I don't know if you've heard of John Malashenko, but he's been my coach for about 4 years, much to his chagrin. And the reason I say much to his, I was a ball hog for sure. So is Scott Joseph a ball hog. Good. There wouldn't be enough balls on the court if you and I were playing together. So Scott was a ball hog in the YMCA. Terrible teammate. Oh, we would have been fist fighting if we were on the same team. So it's everybody's responsibility for culture. But my coach always talks about there's two dealerships simultaneously running. The one you think you operate and the one that's actually operating. And here's what he says. The closer you can get those two companies to align, the healthier and more functional you'll be. But I think what a lot of people do is there's one running that they think they're in charge of, right? It's like this, their eyes are not seeing the truth. And then there's one like a undercurrent, I call it a microclimate of dysfunction that happens. And I think we ignore that. I think when we stop ignoring that and we marry those two cultures, that's, I think, when we find a really great environment that people enjoy coming to, like genuinely enjoy coming.
Let me ask you a question. Brag to me. I want you to brag. I know that's not your nature, but I want you to brag to me about the best things going on for you and your business in the last 30 days.
So the market's not been up 25%. My stores were up 25% last month. We're crushing it in just about every area. Employee satisfaction, customer satisfaction, year-over-year profitability. That's about as much bragging as I'll do. It's all going really well.
That's awesome. So what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
The best piece of advice I've ever been given is don't pass to Scott Joseph. You'll never get the ball back. Can you hear me?
Your mic is crackling.
Your mic is crackling a little bit.
Huh. Can you hear me now? So the best advice I've ever been given was from Sandy Cerami and your brother to not pass you the ball in fear of ever getting it back.
I know my limitations. You'll never see me put the ball on the floor. All right. I go from 3-point line to 3-point line. So if I'm guarding someone, all right, if I'm guarding someone that always wants to camp out in 3, our defense is going to be rock solid. But if my guy's moving around a lot, we're in trouble. And at the same time, on the offensive end, I don't go inside the 3-point line either. So I know my limitations. If I'm open, I'm shooting. If I'm not, I'm passing. Up. We're not hearing you. You're dead on the mic. You there? You there? Hold on. Unmute your mic. I'm not hearing you at all. Can you hear me? It says your mic is not connected. There you go. You got to go into settings there. It says your mic is not connected. Bear with us, everyone. We got just a slight technical issue here. It still says your mic is not connected. Nope. All right. We'll cut it short. So let me tell you, I want to have you back on another time because I think I had a great time with this interview. I want to thank David Long for an outstanding interview, especially with the specifics he was given. Unbelievable human being, a true person that is focused on growth and giving, the two things required if you want fulfillment and peace in your heart. So, I love this guy. I love when he's on stage in Clubhouse. I like listening to him. I've learned a lot from him. And I'm sure all the business leaders in our audience today can take a lot of what you said and apply. So again, Sandy wants to know if we can mute my mic instead. So that's great. So I want to thank David for sharing with us. I want to thank the MCC Nation for joining us for this interview about building a winning culture and building strong relationships with your partners. I'm Scott Joseph. Thanks for joining us on Move, Crush, Count. Make sure you also follow and subscribe to the Move, Crush, Count podcast at movecrushcount.com, as well as on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. You can join our groups on Facebook and LinkedIn. A lot of our experts like David are part of those groups. So if you ask questions specific, they can go in and help answer things. David's more than willing. He's always been gracious in paying things forward and helping people out. Today's interview was sponsored by J&L Marketing. J&L is a digital and direct marketing agency that delivers results with strategies to help you outsmart competitors so you don't have to outspend them. So remember, you're not going to outsmart competitors by wasting a lot of time trying to figure out what they're advertising. We listened to David talk earlier about the support and the stuff that his suppliers will do for him to make his job and his life easier in business. This report will help you do that. You need to know which offers your competitors are doing online are successful, which are their best performing ads, where are they stealing market share from you, where are your biggest opportunities. We can get you this in a quick and easy report. The first 5 people to DM me after this show, I'll get the ball rolling for that, and we'll get on that. It'll save you hours of time. Make sure you follow me as well on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. That's the best way to DM me. David, I believe I'm going to try it one last time. Your mic is still unconnected. So we had some technical issues here at the very last second with David's mic. We will get him back on the show. He is outstanding. Everybody, have a great day.